Okay, go ahead.
For our next person, I used to love watching Jeff Bridewell play at Davis. I went to Davis also, an amazing quarterback at Davis. So with the next introduction, to introduce the record breaker, this is Carl Hammond.
Let's go, Papa!
Thank you, Wade. Would everybody like to stand up just for 3 seconds? Stretch? No? Okay. I know it's tough walking A very good evening to all of you, and especially a good evening to all the inductees for 2014. Tonight I have the privilege and honor of introducing one of those inductees. And as most of you probably know by now, I happen to be Charles's father. I'm Carl Hammond. In 1986, the CFI rules stated that in order for a student athlete to participate at the varsity level, they had to have attained the age of 15. A rule that rarely had any consequence. However, Charles was very rare. After his first JV game against El Cerrito, they thumped El Cerrito really bad. Charles ran for several touchdowns, passed for several more, had an excellent team. That weekend, Burl Autry and Mike Koontz were sitting in our living room discussing the possibility of Charles coming up and play varsity quarterback. Linda and I kind of looked at one another and thought, well, maybe we better talk about this for a little bit. Charles looked at us and he was about ready to, you know what, because there was no decision other than the fact, let's go for it. I'm ready. In his first freshman year, the week of Charles's 15th birthday, in his first opportunity to play the varsity game, on the road against Fairfield, he threw the winning touchdown pass to Steve Bucciolato, and Vintage won 20-19. That was a great start to a Hall of Fame career at Vintage High School. I realize that a lot of these things are in your bulletin, but bear with me. This is what I got to do. 4 years later, he finished as a career leader in attempts, completions, touchdowns, passing yards, games played, and victories. Charles threw for 45 touchdowns, passed for 4,263 yards, and had 28 victories. Charles was the team captain, the team MVP. His teams won league titles, and he is still the only sophomore quarterback to lead his team to a section championship. He was all league, all county, all region, and he was on the Honor Society and a scholar athlete all 4 years of high school. Charles is now a father of 3, his oldest Bailey, his middle Kate, and his youngest Jackson. 3 great grandkids. They make up 3 of my 7. Excuse me, Linda and my 7. Charles is a successful executive in the business community of Danville. And he has several business ventures going on in the Bay Area. He and Tracy just celebrated their 20th anniversary. as my wife Linda and I look back at all the practices, all the games, all the wins and losses, all the road trips, we would not trade those times for anything in this world. Once in a while, somebody would approach us and say, how do you possibly get Charles to practice and be so competitive without giving him heck? There was never a need for that. Charles was so motivated that had he not played football, I don't know what he would have done. Football created a very motivated, competitive student and player. Charles also played baseball. He had the highest batting average, the most home runs, and I can attest to that because I have a 6-gallon plastic bucket full of home run balls. Everybody would collect them for me. They would take off as soon as it went over the pitch. And his favorite spot was right field. Just go with the pitch. I would be very remiss in not mentioning his grandfather, Ed Rossmore. I think some of you may remember Ed. With his yellow chair, the little side shelf, cup of coffee, he would be there at most of Charles's practices, all the games, went with us many times to Oregon, San Luis Obispo, wherever it might be. Ed, in his own right, was an All-American football player out of the University of North Dakota, a successful coach, and a successful teacher. He recognized Charles's ability as a young man. He grew real fast, so he started running him so that he could develop his coordination. Ed is very, very responsible for Charles's athletic ability and also his character as a fine young man. With that, I would like to introduce my son, our 2014 Hall of Fame inductee, Charles Edward Harold Hammond.
I love you, Dad! Sorry.
So that's the second time my father stepped to be the best man at my wedding. So I'm very proud to have a best friend like my dad, and certainly my mom. Thank you, Dad. Jeff, I don't know if you left this up here, but I might use it. So how great is this? How great is this? When you think about the folks that put this together, from the dinner, there you are, from the dinner, to the group that started, Cam Neal, who got this off the ground, the amount of time and energy that it took to celebrate some folks who probably don't get talked a lot about these days. So, as many of the inductees before have said thank you, I also need to say thank you to Terry, to Glenn Lobin, to Cam, Principal Pearson. Thank you very much. They all need a round of applause again. And certainly congratulations to the inductees. I know you feel the same way I do, very honored, very humbled to be standing in front of some really great people who care a lot about Vintage High School. Who went to all the games, stood in the cold, sat on those cement bleachers, the old Memorial Stadium. I love the new one, but you miss the smell of the grass at the old one. Am I right? Thanks, DP. It's a special night. How about last night's game, by the way, vintage victory? Anybody else get goosebumps walking down the middle?
Yep.
I had my two boys with me.
Woo!
I met my idol, Roger Wilkinson. I tell you, I got to play catch with Jeff Bridewell on the sidelines. That was fantastic. Felt like a little kid. I think I pulled a hamstring running off the field. There's no Iron Man here for me. And what a great ceremony Cam and Principal Pearson put on. We had folks that escorted us, with people that took pictures. We had the cool trophy that already has fingerprints all over it all day from all of us touching it. They spelled my name right. I was so excited. Just a great night. I certainly want to recognize my family. I have family at this table. I have family at this table. And the same faces that I saw when we played and looked up in the stands, the faces that meant so much, all the conversations we had, all the cheering for the touchdowns, and all the cheering for the interceptions too, because there were a couple. When we found out that I'd been inducted, my wife told everybody we knew, and I told her that I hated it. But it actually wasn't that bad. It's been a long time since my athletic career had been the topic of any conversation. So for that, I thank you all again. It really felt so great to be inducted, and immediately made me think about the culture of the Vintage High athletic program, more specifically football. Because the culture that made me have the opportunity to play, that packed the stands, the Craig and Mike Landises, the Jeff Bridewells, the Roger Wilkinsons, the Pat Hodges, the Pearl Autry's, the Les Franco, who was at Napa when I was in high school, so I'm having a little hard time with this, by the way. All of that culture that you all built gave me the opportunity to play and have such a great time. Because I remember as a little guy walking around the stadium and watching Roger Wilkinson run over people, and Pat Hodge apparently juked people, and Jeff Bridewell throw bombs. He still holds the record for the longest touchdown pass in vintage history. Jeff Bridewell, everybody. Great memories and great culture that was established before I got there. And I'm so appreciative that you all did what you did to give us a chance to live in that great, exciting culture in that time. That was fantastic. The big game rallies, the dances after the game, getting your house TP'd before the big game. Thank you for that. Those are all great memories that you just, they stay with you. Certainly the 1986 championship team was fantastic. That's right. The job that Mike Kuntz and Coach McGrath did on putting the right players in the right place, getting the most out of them, and then certainly the fantastic athletes that were on that team. My center, Barry Forsythe. My guard, Steve Porter. Mr. Eric Jones. Greg Schmidt, Larry DeZorzi, John Shea, Warren Bowers, Dave Ilsley, Sean LaChapelle, Steve Buccellato. I know I'm missing some, but man, that was a great team. That was a great team. And I absolutely could not stand up here and have the opportunity to talk to you about me without saying thanks to my guys. I think about you guys a lot. The memories that last, that have made the biggest impact on me, the ones that will last, I think, the longest for sure, are the ones I have with my family. Where's the net? My aunt and uncle, who went to every game, my cousins, my sisters, again, who celebrated the touchdowns and still stood tall with their head up and their shoulders back on the interceptions. And I had a couple. My grandfather, you heard my father talk about my grandfather, Ed. The lessons that he would talk to me about on the ride to this game or ride to that game, that at 15, 16, 14, I had no idea what he was talking about. But the older I get, the smarter I realize he was. And a day does not go by, I have a picture of him in my office, that I don't think about him and the impact he made. He passed away in the late 90s. But I know he is here, because this is the kind of thing that would have driven him for months, and he would have talked about it and asked questions, and what did you think, and was there a bunch of people there, and what did the crowd think? You know, he was a great man.
Marvelous.
But by far and away, the two people that I need to say thank you to is my mom and dad.
Love you, Grandma. Love you, Papa.
I remember that night when Coach Kuntz and Coach Autry were in the living room, and they were talking about it, and I was trying to keep up, and I'm like, I think they're talking about me, but I'm not really sure. What's the 15? I want 14. What? I don't get it. But once I figured it out, they could, you know, they were right. They couldn't hold me back. So, being a parent, I know how hard of a job that is now, but at the time, I mean, if I think about a 14-year-old boy now in the limelight, I feel like I'm talking about somebody else, not me. But how they navigated that with me through that process, I had my scars. I made a lot of mistakes. I was overwhelmed. I was scared to death. Through it, I learned a lot. And that's really what life is all about, picking yourself up after tough times. Because we've all had them. More are coming. And it's the foundation that you get that helps you overcome those the later you go on in life. And I cannot say enough thanks for making me the man that I am today. Through a very exciting time, very scary time, and a lot of success along the way. And I'm so thankful to be able to share this with you. I really give it to you. Mom and Dad, I love you. So congratulations to all the inductees. Thank you to the Hall of Fame board. Thank you for the team for putting the dinner on. This is great. Thank you to the previous players who created the culture that give us a chance to be a part of something special. Earl Autry, Mike Kuntz, the players. And thank you for the opportunity for me to remember a time where I was part of something bigger than me, the Vintage High School athletic team and football team. Thank you very much.
I love you, Dad!
Vintage culture lives on today. It's not done. We are all responsible to keep it thriving. We need to get out and support current vintage programs, such as the volleyball team, which has a match Tuesday at home against Maria Carrillo.
You look great up there, Dad. I love you. You're my best bud.
Love you.
We're going to switch